Do you know why school trustees matter? Welcome to Tea at Taxevity, where you get insights from insiders who make life better, our many clients and friends. My name is Pramod Sharma, and our guest today is Ranjit Khatkur. Welcome, Ranjit.
Thank you.
You are the president and founder of E-Race.
Mm-hmm.
And so can you please tell us what you do?
Yeah, I'm a social justice advocate.
Okay, and what does that mean?
Okay, so it means for me that wherever I see some injustice happening, then I would like to step in and do what I can from a human perspective. Sometimes I was an educator for 33 years, so in schools what I would do is find where there was a gap and make sure that those gaps were filled in different projects and different strategies that we could use. So whether we were addressing needs of seniors that were not getting on with the youngsters, where there was conflict in the community, where there may be issues around the environment, creating a community garden, whether it's making sure that ESL students are a part of student council so that they can make decisions, whether it's the LGBTQ community not being treated fairly. So every time there's a gap or every time there's an injustice, I've always stepped in to make sure that we address the needs that are, not being treated properly.
Okay, that's terrific, because we do definitely need more people who are committed to causes like that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, today we're talking about school trustees.
Mm-hmm.
How is it that you know so much about that topic?
Like I said, I was a teacher and an educator for 33 years. I retired last year. I filed a human rights case, a claim against the Peel District School Board because of injustices that I felt were there. And as a result of that, I've had a lot of people that have come to me and have asked questions around, what they need to do and how can they, take action, or how can they resolve certain issues. And so my job would be advocating for these individuals, and often it's just coming up with resolutions. So I was involved, for example, in a criminal youth justice committee, when we were looking at students under the age of 18 that had basically a criminal incident that had happened. And so we were looking at restorative ways to resolve issues. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what it's about, is what can we do to resolve the issues or prevent issues? What can we do within public institutions to ensure that the parents and the communities are engaged, understand the issues, and become a part of the decision making? And I think the trustee does just that.
Okay, now what is it that a trustee actually does?
So a trustee is responsible for policies within the school system. They have lots of committees, whether they're on curriculum or whether they're on school success, or whether each school board has specific committees that you become a part of. And then for me, it's about what goes on behind closed doors. So when there's board meetings and they have, closed sessions, what's the dialogue? What are the decision-making strategies that are used, and what are the situations that do go to closed doors? So and how can the community be involved in making sure that they're aware of what's really happening? Do we know what's happening in the budget? Do we know how the money's being spent? Does the budget, the public budget, really represent what's happening? Do we know how students that are suspended in one neighborhood may be very different to the way they're suspended in a different neighborhood, based on the parents in the community? If you've got a community or a neighborhood where there's affluent white parents, then are they going to speak out, or are they going to just keep quiet? And the chances are they'll speak out and they'll be advocating for their kids. And our parents don't do that well. The South Asian parents don't do that well. And so, a lot of it is about how do we get the information out there? How do we inform parents of their rights? How do we inform parents about decisions that are being made on behalf of their children? how do we become involved? And school councils, for example, are set up for just that. You know, we have school councils where parents can get involved, but a lot of school councils, the parents aren't really involved in the school. They are just, it's a platform for the principals to shine. You know, so they'll talk about all the wonderful things that are happening in the schools, but realistically, they're not there to help parents understand all of the ins and outs of how the board, you know, is dealing with certain issues.
Okay, so does that mean the school trustee is really on the parents' side because the parents are the ones who selected them?
That's what I feel that a school trustee should be about, is they're not really on a side because they are with the board and they are advocating for the board too. But I think as a trustee, it's about the parents that do not have the knowledge, is being responsible for providing them with the knowledge and the understanding of what they can do and what resolutions can be taken, and how they can move forward.
Okay, now how does a school trustee get elected?
So the election, anybody in the public that's a Canadian citizen that is resident, not necessarily in the same ward, but has public funds that are going, their taxes that are going to the public system, can stand for election in the public system. And if you're in the separate system, then you have to have a child, or your taxes have to go to the separate system. So, you know, as long as your taxes are there, as long as you're, you know, living in the neighborhood, doesn't have to be in the same ward, then you can put your name in.
Okay, so that's how someone can run.
Yes.
And but then how does the election take place? Are there a certain number for the entire city? Are they based on wards?
Within Peel Board, we've got 12 trustees.
Okay.
Right? And so we have one from Caledon, I believe, and the rest from Brampton and from Mississauga. So the trustees are basically by ward, and the ward is a geographical area that's assigned to the trustees. And whoever the residents are the ones that would be voting in those neighborhoods. And basically the schools that are within that neighborhood are the schools that the trustees will be linking with, and communicating with the principals, and making sure that if there are issues within those neighborhoods, that they would communicate those issues to the principals, to the board, and to be able to resolve them and come away amicably, you know, with a solution.
Okay, and how long do these terms last?
They're 4 years.
4 years,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
And can someone run again?
Absolutely, absolutely. Incumbents, I know in every board there's always a few incumbents that have been there for a good 20 years, and some even as long as 30 years.
Wow.
So, you know, you've got people that are out there, you know, with 30 plus, 20 plus, and they keep coming.
Okay, is the role of a school trustee a full-time job then?
No, it's part-time. There's 2 mandatory meetings, board meetings that we have, I believe, a month. But realistically, it doesn't pay a lot. So when you come into the role as a trustee, you're coming in, you know, either as a stepping stone to get into, you know, provincial parliament or federal parliament, or maybe even local, you know, municipal elections as a councillor.
Okay.
But people that are really passionate and really want to make a difference in education are the people that would really benefit in terms of being trustees.
Okay, and do you have you mentioned about them getting paid. Do you have a sense of roughly what a school trustee would get paid?
I think generally between 20 to 30,000, I think, is where it's at.
Okay, so it isn't really a full-time job then?
No, absolutely not, no. Most trustees have a permanent position elsewhere. You know, they're employed elsewhere. They do this as a part-time, you know, position. They volunteer to be on all of the committees, or whichever committees they're really passionate about, and that's the way it goes.
Okay, and roughly how many hours in a month would a trustee be working?
You know what, it depends on how passionate you are. It's like asking, you know, how many hours does a vice principal work, you know, or a principal, you know, and the extra hours can be horrendous, and it depends on the person. you know.
Okay.
And I'm very passionate about what I do for social justice. So for me, it would be making sure that I was involved in, you know, whether it was the hiring, retention, promotion, curriculum, whether it was community engagement. Like, those are things that I would be really passionate about. And I do believe that that's why it's critical to have trustees that know what they're doing, that have a good sense of the realities, and to be able to go in and make a difference.
That was actually the question that was coming to my mind, is whether school trustees really do make a difference.
And some of them do, and some of them, like I said, it's just a stepping stone. They get in there, they don't want to say anything, they want to bide their time and move on. And so, you know, that's a stepping stone for them, and they will not make waves, they will not speak out, and they will not engage in the community. They'll attend a few social functions so that they're out there, and people feel that, you know, it looks good because there's a trustee at this event. But effectively, apart from, you know, going from event to event, they do nothing outside of what they absolutely have to.
Okay, that's disappointing. Then how do we select the right people?
And I think that's where it's critical that we engage in the dialogue with the candidates that are running for trustee, is to find out a little bit more about them. You know, find out what their track record is, find out what sort of community work they've done, find out what educational backgrounds they have, find out as much as you can. I know yesterday I had organized through the Social Justice Collaborative a mayoral candidates debate, and that was all about having every single candidate at the table and asking them as many social justice questions as we could that would lead them to make an action statement that would say, this is what I'm going to do if I become mayor, right? And so in the same way with the trustees, I think there has to be a real sense of finding people that will speak up, that will speak out, that will be engaging, that will involve the community, that will make a difference, and aren't afraid of challenging, questioning, giving input that's based on knowledge and understanding of how the system works.
Right, and those are the kinds of people we want, but when they're campaigning, it gets hard to know what they'll do once they're elected.
And there is no knowing that. And that's why it's critical to find out what their track record is. The chances are, and we see this time and time again, that people that have a track record of working in social justice are the people that will make the difference. They're the ones that are committed and passionate for what they do. And whatever else happens, that will be what engages them and will keep them advocating for the same.
And that makes a lot of sense. If you look at what people have done, it gives an idea of what they'll do in the future.
I agree.
Now, what motivated you to get so involved?
Like I said, I've been an educator for 33 years. I retired just over a year ago, nearly 2 years now, actually, in November. And so my sense was, this is what's driven me all of my life. You know, it's been about excellence and equity through inclusion, involvement, and innovation. So it's always been, what can I do with the kids that will give them understanding that's deeper than what maybe the mainstream is able to offer. So, you know, if I'm bringing in a Shaolin monk that's visiting Canada to learn about breathing exercises, or to bring in Ayurvedic medicine doctor to come and talk about kitchen remedies, or to be able to show them strategies that they can use to improve their life. And it might be meditation, it might be, you know, all these different ways of looking at what education is. And not to be rigid and think that, you know, education is just about academics, because it's not. And so my experience always was going beyond that academics. It was going beyond, it was teaching them leadership, teaching students what they needed in order to be effective leaders. And it didn't mean schmoozing necessarily. It didn't mean, you know, being in bed with someone. It didn't mean any of that. What it meant was that you had to understand the different communities that you serve, but bring people in from all of the different communities, and to be able to engage them in a way that is passionate and driven.
Yeah, I can see that you're very knowledgeable about what is going on currently. May I ask you who you're supporting?
Um, I think it has to be people that are really committed to social justice. And I think trustees, for example, in my neighborhood now, I'm seeing people, youngsters that are coming up, like Dev Ramsamir, like Kiru, who's running for councillor. We've got trustees now. We've got Mandeep Jassal, who's running for council as well, and then Hardeep Kalra. And so there's a lot of youngsters now that are really committed to social justice and the environment, and those are the ones that I really want to try and pull and make sure that they have that place in that space, because they will make a difference.
Now, is there some place that people can see that list?
We haven't created the list yet, because
okay.
some of them haven't even declared their candidacy, and others are in the process of doing it. But I think the key thing for me is that we can get an update of the information on our Facebook page, which is Towards Social Justice. And I will keep people informed. You know, this is what we're thinking, this is what we're doing, this is, you know, an opportunity for them to make their own decisions, but this is what these candidates are putting forward, and why we think that they're really special and why they're making that difference.
Now, what's the best way for people to reach you?
By email. So Khatkur, so that's KHATKURR @hotmail.com.
Okay, well, thanks for visiting us.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us for Tea at Taxevity. The Taxevity Insurance Advisory helps you understand insurance and bridges gaps in your coverage. There's no premium for peace of mind. How healthy is your insurance?